Rain hammered the front steps so hard it felt like the sky wanted to drown her. Alina stood barefoot, shivering, her suitcase dumped at her feet like trash someone couldn't wait to take out. The door behind her was still half open when Helena's voice sliced through the storm. "Get out. You shame this family." Alina turned, soaked hair plastered to her cheeks. Her father stood behind Helena, frozen the way he always was, guilt in his eyes, fear in his bones, and not a single word meant for her. The wind slapped another burst of rain across Alina's face. Her hand drifted to her stomach without her even realizing it. Then the door slammed. The house fell silent. The rain didn't. She whispered to herself, voice cracking. How did my life become this? Rainmakers. Settle in. Let's begin. That morning felt like a different life. Alina had woken with that same heaviness she'd carried for days, the kind that made breathing feel complicated. She dragged herself downstairs, hoping for quiet, but Helena was already seated at the dining table. Perfect hair, perfect posture, perfect poison. "You look worse every day," Helena muttered without looking up. "Are you incapable of waking on time?" Alina swallowed her words. Her father sat across the table, hands trembling around his coffee cup. He didn't look at Alina. He rarely did anymore. Helena had trained him well. I wasn't feeling," Alina began. Helena cut her off immediately. "Nobody asked for excuses, and that shirt makes you look like your mother tried too hard." Alina's chest tightened. Helena loved those subtle jabs, tiny knives disguised as commentary. When the father finally tried to speak, he didn't get far. "Helena, maybe—" Her hand landed on his arm. Soft touch, sharp meaning. His voice died on his tongue. Alina saw it all over again. The cage Helena built around him, the grip she had on his debts, his shame, his life. She looked away, pretending breakfast was edible. Later that afternoon, something inside her twisted, sending a cold sweat down her back. Helena noticed immediately. "Stop acting dramatic. Take a painkiller and don't make a scene." But this wasn't normal. Alina slipped into the bathroom, locked the door, and braced herself over the sink. Her hands shook as she opened the pregnancy test. She tried to steady her breathing, but outside the door, Helena paced like a guard waiting for an inmate to slip. The minutes dragged. The silence grew thicker. When the result appeared, her breath snapped out of her chest. Positive. Her knees hit the floor. The world tilted. A flash. Blurry lights, her heels wobbling at the gala. Someone catching her waist before she collapsed. A voice she couldn't place, warm and deep. Then nothing. She didn't know who the father was. She didn't even know what had happened that night. Fear swallowed her whole. The door burst open. Helena didn't knock. She never did. Her eyes dropped to the test, and she smiled. Not confusion, not shock, triumph. The confrontation hit like a storm before the real storm. "You irresponsible little parasite," Helena hissed. "This is the stunt you pull? This is how you repay this family?" Alina pushed herself up from the floor. I don't even know." "Save it," Helena snapped, twisting Alina's arm so hard she winced. "You wanted attention. Congratulations." Her father rushed in, eyes darting between them. "Helena, stop. Do you want me to remind you who owns this house?" She whispered sharply, just loud enough for him to hear. "Who saved you? Who can destroy you?" He crumbled instantly. Alina stared at him, the last thread of hope unraveling. "Dad, please say something." He opened his mouth. Helena's nails dug deeper into his arm. He lowered his head, silent. That broke her more than the test ever could. Helena dragged Alina toward the front door. Not with anger, with satisfaction. Staff watched from the hallway, avoiding Alina's eyes. They valued their salaries more than her suffering. The door swung open. Rain crashed down like a wall. Helena threw the suitcase outside, clothes hitting the wet ground. Thunder exploded overhead. Alina gasped, stumbling as Helena shoved her forward. Her father finally whispered, barely audible, "I'm sorry." Helena slammed the door before Alina could even turn around. The storm swallowed her. Alina dropped to her knees, arms wrapped around her stomach, as lightning lit up everything she didn't have anymore. Across the city, rain slapped against tall glass windows. Damien sat in his office, sharp eyes scanning surveillance images from the charity gala. He paused when he reached a blurry frame, brown hair, a trembling girl being steadied by him. Her. His lieutenant stepped forward. "We still haven't found her. She vanished the next morning. No trail." Damien's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to losing anything, especially not her. Another report came in through encrypted channels. A young girl was thrown out of a wealthy home tonight, pregnant. Damien froze. The rain outside his window sounded exactly like the rain outside her house. He connected the pieces: time, location, description. His voice dropped to something lethal. "It's her." Alina forced herself to her feet. She tried to walk, but the rain pushed her back, soaking her hair, her clothes, her spirit. A car splashed past, nearly hitting her, the driver yelling instead of helping. She pushed forward, one weak step at a time, until she reached the bus stop shelter. She hugged her arms around herself, trembling violently. Her hand drifted to her stomach again. "I don't know who you are," she whispered, voice shaking. "But I'm all you have." That truth hit harder than the rain. She had nothing left. No home, no father, no safety. Only a child she hadn't asked for, and pain she didn't deserve. Her breath hitched as the reality of homelessness wrapped around her like the cold. A low engine rumble cut through the storm. A black car slowed to a stop in front of her shelter. Tinted windows. Silent threat. The kind of vehicle that never meant anything good for anyone. Alina stepped back instinctively. The back door opened without a single hand touching it. A man stepped out, boots first, dark coat brushing against the rain. An umbrella snapped open above him, shielding everything but his presence. He walked toward her, steady, certain, like he already knew his destination. "Alina," he said, voice low and controlled. "Get in the car." Her heart kicked against her ribs. She recognized something in that voice, and feared it, and hoped it, and had no idea what it meant. Her lips trembled. "How do you know my name?" The rain hit the pavement harder. The question barely left Alina's mouth before silence swallowed it. The storm raged around them, but the man didn't flinch. He stood there, umbrella steady, rain sliding off the edges like it refused to touch him. "Alina," he repeated, as if her name belonged to him. "Get in the car." She stumbled back until her spine hit the bus stop bench. Her breath trembled out of her. He stepped closer, slow, careful, almost calculated. The umbrella dipped just enough for the shadow to pull away from his face. Her eyes widened. Him. From the gala. The one who caught her when her legs gave out. The one she thought she imagined in the haze. "You..." Her voice cracked. Damien held her gaze. Rain streaked behind him like the world had paused just for this moment. His expression didn't soften. But something in his eyes flickered. Recognition, focus, a claim he hadn't voiced yet. You're freezing, he said. Get in the car before you collapse. His tone wasn't loud or cruel, just firm enough that her body reacted before her mind did. He moved the umbrella over her head, shielding her from the downpour, and for a second, the warmth of that small gesture almost broke her. Her knees wobbled. He caught her elbow instantly, gentle, steady, completely at odds with the danger he carried. Let go, she whispered, trying to pull back. No. It wasn't a threat, it was a decision. He guided her toward the open door. She resisted, weakly, but the rain was too heavy, her body too cold. The moment she sank into the leather seat, warmth wrapped around her like she'd been dropped into another world. The door shut, muting the storm. Damien got in beside her. Alina pressed herself against the far side of the car, heart racing. Why are you here? She whispered. He didn't look at her. Drive, he ordered. The car pulled away from the curb, smooth and quiet. Alina's voice trembled. Where are you taking me? Somewhere safe. Her stomach twisted. A hospital? No. Damien finally turned his head, eyes landing on her. You're coming with me. Her breath caught. Why? You don't even know me. I do. His voice didn't rise, it sharpened. You were at the charity gala 3 months ago? You wore a silver dress? You could barely stand. Alina's blood ran cold. She remembered nothing clearly, just flashes, sounds, the sensation of falling, and then a pair of arms lifting her. Damien leaned back in his seat, jaw tight, gaze fixed on the rain sliding down the tinted window. His voice lowered. You weren't drunk. You were drugged. The air inside the car froze. Alina's hands shook. No, that can't. I don't remember. You were taken into a side room, he continued. Barely conscious. Someone had plans for you. Her stomach churned violently. Damien's eyes darkened. I stopped them. Alina's chest tightened. Then what happened? Why don't I remember anything after? He didn't answer right away. A long silence. Too long. When he finally spoke, the car felt smaller. You were scared, confused. You clung to me. I should have taken you to the hospital. His voice cracked in frustration. But I didn't. Her heart pounded. What did you do, Damien? He didn't answer. Shame flickered over his features, quick, sharp, unfamiliar. Before she could push further, he shifted back to command. You're safer with me now. The people who drugged you are connected to someone who wants leverage against me. He looked at her stomach, then at her face. And they'll use anything. Alina's breath hitched. The walls of the car felt too close. Let me out, she whispered shakily. I don't want to be part of your world. You already are. Damien, please. No. His voice cut clean, cold. Tonight, your stepmother threw you into a storm while carrying my child. I'm not leaving you on the street. Alina froze. She didn't want to hear that sentence. Not now. Not from him. That's not confirmed, she breathed. I don't know anything for sure. But I do. His stare pinned her in place. I remember everything. Her throat tightened. Panic rose fast, choking. She grabbed the door handle instinctively, trying to yank it open. But the locks clicked seconds before her fingers touched it. Damien didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Alina, stop. She trembled, tears mixing with leftover raindrops on her face. You can't keep me, she whispered. I'm not keeping you. His gaze dropped briefly to her stomach again, and something possessive, dangerous, and undeniably emotional flickered there. I'm protecting what's mine. Her hand flew to her belly, as if the baby could feel this moment too. Damien watched that gesture like it rewired something inside him. His jaw hardened. His eyes darkened. His entire body shifted with a single thought he didn't voice yet. But it was written all over him. He wasn't letting her go. Not now. Not after everything. The car continued into the night, rain chasing them like a warning neither of them understood yet. The car slid into an underground garage, the storm fading behind thick concrete. Alina's breaths were still uneven, her fingers curled protectively over her stomach. Damien stepped out first, giving her space, but leaving no room for escape. He opened her door without a word. "Come upstairs," he said quietly. Alina hesitated. Every instinct screamed to run, but her body was exhausted, soaked, shaking. She stepped out slowly, keeping distance between them. They entered a private elevator, keycard access, polished metal walls, soft lights overhead. The silence felt heavier than the rain. When the doors opened, Alina stepped into a world she had never seen before. The penthouse was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the storm rolling across the city, marble floors that reflected every trembling step she took. Furniture that looked untouched, expensive, almost cold. Everything was silent. Too silent. A place made for power, not comfort. She backed away instantly. "I can't stay here." Damien closed the elevator behind her. "You're safe here." She shook her head hard. No, I don't belong in a place like this. I shouldn't be here." She turned fast, jabbing at the elevator button. The doors slid open, but before she could step inside, Damien moved, calm, controlled, blocking the doorway without touching her. "Alina, let me go. I've been looking for you." She froze. The elevator chimed softly behind him, doors trying to close but unable to with his frame in the way. "What?" Alina whispered. Damien's eyes held hers, unflinching. "For months, since the night of the gala. You disappeared before I could make sure you were okay." She pressed her back to the cold wall. "Why would you even care? You don't even know me." "I do," he answered. "More than you think." Her breath stuttered again. The room swayed. She pressed a hand to her stomach instinctively. Damien noticed instantly. His expression shifted, not surprised, just confirmed. "What's wrong?" he asked, stepping closer. She tried to step aside, but the elevator wall trapped her in place. Her voice broke. "I'm pregnant." The elevator's soft hum filled the long silence that followed. Damien didn't gasp, didn't move, didn't even blink. He simply froze in a way that said this wasn't news. This was recognition. Alina wiped her face, shaking. "I didn't want to tell you. I don't know how this happened. I don't remember anything clearly, and I didn't want... It's mine." Her entire world tilted. "No," she whispered. "No, you can't just say that. You don't know." His voice didn't rise. It anchored her. "I remember everything you don't." She shook her head so hard, tears scattered. "You're lying. You're manipulating me. You're using me for something." "I'm not." He stepped closer, but kept his hands to himself. "You were drugged. You collapsed. You were dragged toward a locked room. I stopped it." Her breath caught. He continued quietly, as if pulling the memories from a place he wished didn't exist. "You were barely conscious. You didn't understand what was happening. You clung to me because you thought I was the only safe thing in the room." He swallowed hard. "And I should have taken you to a hospital. I should have walked away." "But you wouldn't let go." Alina's legs weakened. She slid down the wall until she was sitting on the cool elevator threshold, arms wrapped around herself. "The person who drugged you," Damien said, is still out there." That sentence hit like a blow. Her eyes snapped up. "What are you talking about? You're twisting everything, making me think you were some hero? Why would anyone drug me? Why would anyone even notice me?" "Because of me." She flinched. He waited. She didn't answer. So he explained, not gently, but honestly. "The man who targeted you worked for a rival who wanted leverage against me. You were in the wrong place at the wrong time." Alina clenched her jaw. "That makes no sense." "It does to them." She looked away, refusing to let him rewrite her story. "I don't believe you." "You will." "No," she snapped, pushing herself to her feet. "I won't believe a word you say. You're dangerous. You're involved in things I don't understand. And you're telling me the father of my child is me," Damien finished, his voice wrapped around the word like it belonged to him alone. Alina shook her head again, terrified and overwhelmed. "I don't want this. I don't want any of this. Just let me go." Damien didn't argue this time. He reached for his phone, dialed a number, and spoke with a calmness that felt unreal. "I need a full medical team prepared, discreet, now." Alina stared, stunned. "Why would you do that?" "Because whether you want me involved or not, you're carrying a child who's now a target. I won't let anything happen to you." She hated how steady his voice was. She hated how part of her wanted to believe it. Minutes later, exhaustion dragged her toward the nearest couch. She didn't remember lying down, didn't remember closing her eyes, didn't even hear Damien end the call. When she finally drifted into sleep, her last thought was a quiet, desperate plea for this nightmare to stop. Damien watched her from across the room, arms folded, jaw tense, eyes never leaving her. He stepped closer, his voice barely a whisper, meant only for himself. "I won't lose you again." The storm eased by dawn, but Helena's house was already suffocating with tension. She sat at the dining table, dressed in silk, makeup flawless, hair pinned with precision. To anyone else, she looked calm. But her hand, it wouldn't stop tapping. A maid entered softly. "Ma'am, there was a report. The girl, Alina, she didn't stay outside long. Someone picked her up." Helena's fingers froze. The air shifted. "Who picked her up?" she asked, voice smooth but eyes sharp. We don't know, but she's alive." Helena's jaw tightened beneath her perfect smile. "Leave me." The maid fled. Helena's phone rang immediately, an encrypted number she prayed would never appear again. She stepped into her private study, closed the door, and answered with a voice far smaller than the one she used to rule the house. "I thought you said she was handled," a cold male voice growled. Helena forced confidence she didn't feel. "She was thrown out, pregnant, alone. She shouldn't have survived the night." "But she did," the man snapped. "And now we can't find her. Damien can't find out you were involved." Her stomach dropped to the floor. The room suddenly felt too hot, too small. "I'm working on it," Helena whispered. "You'd better," the voice hissed. "If Damien learns you sabotaged him, you're dead before sunrise." The call ended. Helena stood still for several seconds, breathing too fast, chest tight, panic clawing at her perfectly pressed blouse. She pressed a trembling hand to her forehead. She had made a deal with Damien's enemies months ago, small favors, small leaks of information, to protect her own position. A secret arrangement she thought she controlled. But now it was spiraling. If Damien learned she helped the people who drugged Alina, if he learned she ordered his possible heir thrown into the street, her entire body shuddered. She forced herself to lift her chin, adjust her jewelry, smooth her dress. No cracks, no fear, no weakness. Her husband stepped into the room. He looked exhausted, eyes sunken, guilt bleeding through the lines on his face. "Helena," he said quietly, "I can't stop thinking about what we did. Throwing her out like that." "What you did?" Helena corrected with a chilling smile. "You think you had any say?" He swallowed hard. "She's my daughter." "And you're a fool," Helena shot back. "You forget who saved you, who paid off your debts, who kept your failures private." She stepped closer. "You want the world to know? Because I can expose every detail. One phone call." His shoulders collapsed instantly. That same defeated posture Alina had watched her whole life. "Please," he whispered. "She's out there alone." "And she'll stay out there," Helena cut in. "Unless you want to spend the rest of your life in prison." He felt the floor drop beneath him. "Helena, don't do this." "You'll stay away from her," she ordered. "You won't call her? You won't look for her?" "And you'll pretend she never existed." A broken sound escaped him, but she didn't care. Helena walked toward the window as her husband left, defeated. Lightning flickered in the distance. Her reflection looked flawless, but her eyes betrayed her. Fear. Real, suffocating fear. She poured herself a drink with shaking fingers, not because she was sad, but because the walls were closing in. She had pushed Alina out, expecting her to disappear. But the universe hadn't cooperated. And Damien? Damien was her worst possible complication. She didn't know how much he remembered from the gala. She didn't know if he'd connect the threads back to her. She didn't know how long her secrets could stay buried. Her phone buzzed again. A different number, a different threat. She answered quickly, voice thin. "Yes?" A man cleared his throat. "This is regarding the girl you asked me to track?" "The private detective." Helena straightened. "Did you find her?" "Yes," he said slowly. "You're not going to like where she is." Her heart pounded. "Tell me." There was a beat of hesitation before he replied. "She's with Damien Carrera." Helena's breath stopped entirely. "That's impossible," she whispered. "It's verified. Security cameras, eyewitnesses. He picked her up himself." Helena's glass slipped from her hand, shattering across the floor. Whiskey spread over the tiles like spilled truth she could never clean up. The detective continued, unaware of the panic swallowing her alive. "If she's pregnant, and he's protecting her, then you've made the biggest mistake of your life." Helena's knees nearly buckled. Her worst fear wasn't that Alina survived. Her worst fear was that Damien found her. And now? He had. Morning light pushed through the penthouse windows, soft and pale, nothing like the violent storm from the night before. Alina woke curled on the couch, wrapped in a blanket she didn't remember pulling over herself. She sat up slowly, still exhausted, still overwhelmed. Her hands drifted to her stomach again. Every movement reminded her of the truth she couldn't escape. Across the room, Damien stood near the window, phone to his ear, eyes locked on the city below like he was studying a battlefield only he understood. She swallowed. "Damien, I want a paternity test." He didn't turn immediately, didn't argue, didn't scold her. He simply lowered the phone and faced her. "All right." Alina blinked. She expected a fight, a refusal, a threat. Not this. "You're agreeing?" "Yes." "Just like that?" "You want confirmation," he said quietly. "You'll have it." Something in her chest loosened without her permission. She hated that his calmness steadied her even when she didn't want it to. Damien turned away again, lifting the phone back to his ear, but his voice had changed. It sharpened, cold enough to slice through steel. She's off limits. Anyone who goes near her disappears. Do you understand me? Alina's breath caught. The tone, the authority, the threat. This wasn't the quiet man who sat beside her in the car. This was Damien Carrera, the man everyone feared, the man with enemies, the man whose world she'd been dragged into without asking. Her heart raced as she listened. I don't care what you have to do, he continued. Find out who leaked information to the rivals. Every name that touched that chain. A beat. Start with Helena. Alina's blood ran cold, her stepmother's name, on his hit list. Damien ended the call, jaw tight, hands clenched. He turned toward her and froze when he saw her expression. Fear. Real fear. She stepped back. You're investigating Helena? She put your life in danger. You can't hurt her, Alina whispered. Damien didn't answer. His silence said enough. He took a step toward her, instinctively reaching out, but she flinched. His hand paused midair before he pulled it back. I'm not going to hurt you, he said softly. That's not what I'm afraid of, she whispered. He inhaled slowly, tension smothering him from the inside. Then something unexpected happened. He turned away, walked into the kitchen, and came back with a tray. Food, warm tea, a folded blanket. He placed it gently on the coffee table. You haven't eaten, he said. You need strength. This small care only made the conflict inside her worse. How was she supposed to fear him and feel safe around him at the same time? Damien sat at the far end of the couch, giving her space. His voice lowered. You're not a prisoner here. I won't force you into anything. But until I know who's after you, you're not leaving. I don't want to depend on you, she whispered. You aren't, he said. You're surviving. Her throat tightened. She looked down, unable to hold his gaze. She hated how steady he made her feel, and how that steadiness terrified her. Damien, what actually happened that night? She finally asked. Not the version you think I want to hear. The truth. All of it. Damien leaned back slowly, eyes darkening with memories that didn't loosen easily. You were drugged before anyone noticed, he began. I followed the man dragging you because something felt wrong. His jaw clenched. When I got there, the situation was worse than I expected. You were barely conscious. He thought you couldn't fight back. Alina covered her mouth, nausea crashing through her. Damien continued, but he didn't say everything. He left out the violence, the blood, the line he crossed with her afterward, something she wasn't ready to hear. You trusted me, he said softly, even though you didn't know who I was. Her eyes glistened. Why can't I remember anything clearly? Because you were scared. Because your mind protected you from the worst of it. And what about the rest? She asked shakily. What aren't you telling me? Damien's stare lowered. Locked. Guarded. Some things won't help you right now, he said. And some things will only hurt you more. She hated that answer, but part of her understood it. Silence settled between them until a sharp sound cracked through the room. A gunshot. Glass shattered. Shards exploded across the floor. Alina gasped and stumbled back as a bullet sliced past her head, tearing into the wall behind her. Damien moved before she even screamed. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her to the ground, shielding her completely. His voice dropped to a deadly whisper. Stay down. The next second wasn't quiet. It was war building behind his eyes. Glass was still falling when Damien covered Alina with his entire body, pulling her against the floor. His breath hit her ear, steady, controlled, terrifyingly calm. "Don't move." The penthouse erupted. Security stormed in, weapons drawn, voices low and urgent. "North window breach. Sniper distance unknown. Secure the perimeter." Another guard knelt beside Damien. "Sir, we need to extract you both. Now." Damien didn't lift his weight off Alina until he was sure the room was secure. Only then did he pull her up, hands firm on her shoulders, eyes scanning her face. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, too stunned to speak. Damien didn't wait another second. He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the private elevator hidden behind a sliding panel. "We're leaving." "But no arguments." The elevator doors closed. Damien stood in front of her, chest rising and falling too fast for a man used to violence. He placed one hand against the elevator wall, the other still holding her wrist, as if the building itself could rip her away. "Someone knew exactly where to aim," he muttered. "They weren't trying to scare you. They were trying to kill you." Alina swallowed hard. "Because of me? Or because of you?" His eyes flicked to her stomach. "Both." The elevator opened into an underground tunnel lit by dim lights. 2 black SUVs waited. Damien ushered her into the closest one and slid in beside her. The convoy moved fast. No headlights, no hesitation. Alina stared at him, feeling the car shake beneath them. "Where are we going?" "A secondary safe house. No one knows the location except my inner circle." "So I'm being hidden." "You're being protected," he corrected. "They feel the same from where I'm sitting," she shot back. The words slipped out sharper than she intended. Damien's jaw flexed, but he didn't reply until the car hit the highway. "Alina, if that bullet had hit you—" "But it didn't," she said. "That doesn't change what almost happened." Her voice rose, shaking. "This is exactly what I meant. Your world, your enemies, your secrets. It's all too much. I can't live like this, Damien. I didn't ask for any of this." His patience snapped. "And you think I did?" he said, voice low but intense. "You think I wanted you dragged into my life like this? You think I'm proud of what happened at that gala? You think I sleep peacefully knowing I failed to protect you once and nearly lost you again tonight?" Alina froze. Damien ran a hand through his hair, looking away, frustrated, angry, but mostly scared in a way she'd never seen. "I've been searching for you for months," he admitted. "Every night wondering if you were safe, if you were alive, if—" His voice cracked. "If someone else had gotten to you." The car fell silent. He continued, quieter. "When I saw you in the rain, I thought I'd been given one more chance. And then tonight, 1 bullet, 1 second, and you were almost gone again." Alina's breath softened. She'd never heard him speak this raw, this unguarded. He looked nothing like a Mafia boss in that moment. He looked like a man terrified of losing something he finally found. Her voice lowered. "Damien." He didn't look at her. She reached out before she could stop herself, fingers barely brushing his sleeve. His shoulders eased, just a fraction, but she felt it. She felt the shift, the unspoken weight between them. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit warehouse on the edge of the city, Helena entered with shaking hands hidden beneath expensive gloves. 3 men sat around a metal table. Not businessmen. Not politicians. Rivals. One leaned forward, smiling the way predators smile at cornered prey. "Mrs. Stanton," he drawled. "We heard your stepdaughter wasn't left outdoors long enough." Helena stiffened. "Someone interfered." "You mean Damien did." Her silence answered for her. They exchanged glances, calculating, entertained, wicked. "You're in deeper than we thought," the second man said. "And Damien doesn't forgive betrayal." "I came here to help you," Helena forced out. "To give information, to protect myself." The first man chuckled. "And now you're here because you're desperate." Helena swallowed. "What do you want?" The third man tapped a file on the table. "The girl is pregnant. That means leverage." Helena's eyes widened. "You can't touch her. If Damien finds out—" "That's the point," the man interrupted. "We take her. We control the child, and Damien comes crawling." Helena's knees weakened. "No," she whispered, but they weren't listening. "We're kidnapping her," one said simply. "And you, Mrs. Stanton, will help us." The lights flickered as the storm outside returned. Helena's perfect life cracked another inch. Back in the SUV, Damien finally turned toward Alina. "We're almost there," he said quietly. "Damien," she whispered, fingers once again resting on her stomach. "What if they try again?" The look in his eyes was absolute. "Then I'll end them before they get close." By the time the convoy reached the secondary safe house, the sun was barely rising. The building didn't look like a fortress from the outside, just a quiet residence tucked behind tall trees. But the inside was built for war. Alina barely stepped through the door before a medical team rushed forward, summoned hours ago by Damien's single phone call. She clutched his arm instinctively as they approached. He didn't move away. He placed a steadying hand over hers. "You're safe," he murmured. "I'm right here." They seated her on a padded chair, taking vitals, asking questions. Damien stood behind them the entire time, arms folded, jaw tight, eyes tracking every movement like he'd kill anyone who touched her wrong. The doctor finished a series of checks and lowered his voice. "The baby is stable," he said. "But her stress levels are extremely high. She needs rest, quiet, and emotional safety." Damien nodded once, sharp, controlled. "She'll have it." Alina glanced up at him, surprised by the certainty in his voice. He wasn't asking. He wasn't hoping. He was promising. The doctor packed up. "She shouldn't be alone for now, and she needs consistent support." Damien's answer came without hesitation. "She has me." They moved her to a bedroom with soft lighting and a thick blanket that smelled nothing like the cold penthouse. Warmer, calmer, almost safe. Damien sat in the chair beside her bed and refused to leave. His phone buzzed again and again. Calls, meetings, urgent demands from the criminal underworld. But he didn't answer a single one. Every time she looked up, he was still there. Watching, guarding, protecting. Hours passed like that. Quiet, tense, strangely gentle. Alina's breathing slowed, exhaustion pulling her toward sleep. But just before drifting off, something inside her flickered. A sound, a voice, a memory. Not from today, from the gala. She heard Damien's voice, not the cold one he used on enemies, but a low, steady murmur she somehow remembered. "It's all right. I've got you." Her eyes blinked open, startled. Another flash, someone lifting her, not roughly, carefully. A memory of his coat brushing her bare shoulder as he carried her away from danger. She pushed herself up. Damien leaned forward immediately. "What's wrong?" Her voice trembled. I remember something." His eyes sharpened. "Tell me." She closed her eyes, letting the fragments surface. "You were holding me," she whispered. "I was scared, and you were trying to get me out of that room. I think I grabbed you because I didn't want you to leave." Damien's breath caught, Subtle, but she felt it. You trusted me, he said quietly. Alina opened her eyes, searching his expression for truth. I thought you were lying about everything, but maybe I misjudged you. He looked down at his hands, tension running through every line of him. There's something you need to understand, he said. What happened that night? The part I told you? He hesitated, jaw tightening with guilt. I should have protected you better. I should have taken you to a hospital. I kept you close because I didn't want to let you out of my sight. And that was selfish. She stared at him, startled by how honest he was being. I didn't touch you because you were vulnerable, he added. I'm not proud of the line I crossed, even if you clung to me like I was the only thing keeping you alive. Alina's chest tightened, not with fear, but with something warm and painful. You saved me, she whispered. If you hadn't been there. He met her gaze, softened, stripped of the armor he wore everywhere else. I'd do it again, he said, but I'd do it right. The room fell quiet, not uncomfortable, not threatening, just deep. She saw the man behind the reputation, the guilt, the fear, the tenderness he tried to hide. A man who carried too many burdens but still watched her breathe as if it mattered more than his entire empire. Her voice softened. Damien, I don't know how to feel about you. You don't have to, he replied. Just don't push yourself away from me when you're scared. Her heart pulled in two directions, fear of him and fear of losing the only person who hadn't abandoned her. Their bond thickened between them, slowly, quietly, unmistakably. Across the city, Helena sat across a table of rival cartel leaders, pretending composure she didn't feel. They argued about territory, money, leverage, while she tried to hide her panic. She pushed a file toward them. I gave you everything I know. Now get that girl away from Damien before he... We already know where she is, one of the men interrupted. One of Carrera's men was sloppy at the safe house. A camera caught their route. Helena's blood drained from her face. You found her? She whispered. Oh yes. The man smirked. And with her being pregnant, she's more valuable than we expected. Helena's stomach twisted. Please, don't hurt her. The man chuckled. Mrs. Stanton, we're not going to hurt her. His smile hardened. We're going to take her. Back in the safe house, Alina slowly drifted to sleep, her mind clearer than before, her memories piecing themselves together. Damien stood at the door, watching her with a look that held guilt, but also something far more personal. He didn't know the rivals had already traced them. He didn't know the walls were closing in. He didn't know the storm was coming again. Dawn crept over the safe house in pale streaks, but inside, everything was still quiet. Alina slept deeply for the first time in days, her breathing soft, her hand resting protectively over her stomach. Damien sat in the hallway outside her room, one hand loosely gripping a gun, the other resting on his knee. He hadn't slept, not even for a minute. His eyes stayed fixed on the door, listening to every shift of the floorboards, every whisper of wind, every distant sound. He was calm, but not relaxed. A predator waiting for the first wrong movement. It came sooner than he expected. A faint scrape, then another. Too deliberate. Too controlled. Damien stood instantly. Positions, he muttered into his earpiece. Before his guards could respond, the window in Alina's room shattered. Move! Damien burst through the door. 3 masked men were already inside, one reaching for Alina, another kicking over the nightstand to block Damien's path. The third aimed a gun. Damien didn't hesitate. He shot the armed man through the shoulder, tackled the second, slammed his head into the wall, and twisted his arm until bone cracked. The third grabbed Alina, groggy, confused, terrified, and dragged her toward the back exit. Damien charged after them, but another attacker crashed into him from behind. Damien threw him off violently, elbowed him in the throat, and sprinted through the hallway. Alina's scream tore through the house. "Damien!" That one word ripped something loose inside him. Every ounce of restraint vanished. He slammed into the door leading to the backyard and saw her, being pulled across the gravel. Barefoot, panicked, her hand reaching back toward him. Damien's vision blurred red. He fired 2 warning shots that forced the kidnappers to drop her, then launched himself forward, tackling the closest man so hard they crashed into the fence. Another swung a knife. Damien twisted his wrist until the blade fell, then crushed his jaw with a punch that cracked like thunder. The last attacker tried to grab Alina again. Damien grabbed him first. He shoved the man into the mud, knee on his chest, rage pouring off him in waves. "You touched her?" Damien growled. "You think you can walk away?" The man choked out, Helena gave us the location. Don't, please." Damien's eyes went dead still. "Helena, of course." He stood and nodded once to his men. "Take him." The attacker didn't understand what that meant until 2 guards dragged him away screaming. Damien didn't watch. He was already moving to Alina. She was trembling so hard her teeth clicked. Mud splattered her legs, her hair tangled, fear shaking her to the core. Damien reached her and dropped to his knees. "Alina, look at me." His hands cupped her face, steady, grounding, the opposite of the violence he'd just unleashed. "You're safe. I've got you." Her hands clutched the front of his shirt, fingers digging in, body shaking uncontrollably. I couldn't breathe. They pulled me. Damien, I thought. His arms wrapped around her before she could finish. He held her tightly, almost crushing her against him, his cheek pressed to her temple. "They'll never touch you again," he said, voice rough with fury and something deeper. "Not while I'm breathing." She swallowed hard, trying to calm herself, trying to breathe steadily, but then she winced. Damien froze. "What's wrong?" "My stomach. It hurts. Panic ignited instantly. He scooped her into his arms and sprinted toward the car. "Get the engine running," he barked. "Now!" His men scrambled, doors flying open, tires screeching. Damien climbed into the back seat with her still in his arms, yelling for the hospital before the driver even shut the door. Alina's face had gone pale. Too pale. Her voice trembled. "Is something happening to the baby?" "No," Damien insisted, brushing hair from her forehead. "You're both holding on. You hear me? Both of you." She blinked weakly, breath shaky. He held her even closer, one arm around her shoulders, the other over her stomach, as if he could protect the child inside through sheer willpower. The car sped through intersections and red lights, sirens blaring as they approached the emergency entrance. Damien didn't wait for help. He carried her inside, shouting for a doctor, refusing to hand her over until the medical team forced him back. He stood outside the room, fists clenched so tight his knuckles went white, chest heaving with adrenaline and terror. If she lost the baby, if she lost her life, if Helena had caused this, he wouldn't let himself finish the thought. A guard approached carefully. "Sir, we confirmed what the attacker said. The leak came from Helena Stanton." Damien didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "Helena," he repeated quietly. The word was poison on his tongue. "She betrayed Alina. She targeted my child. He turned toward the window of Alina's room, watching her through the glass, small, fragile, fighting to breathe. She'll pay for this. The way he said it wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was a promise. Machines beeped softly. Sterile light glowed across the ceiling. Alina blinked awake, her body heavy, her throat dry. The hospital room came into focus first, then the chair beside her bed. Damien, asleep. Or rather, collapsed. His head leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped like they were holding up the last pieces of him. He still wore the same clothes from the night before, streaked with dust and dried blood from the fight. His gun holster sat beside him, untouched. He hadn't left. Not for food. Not for rest. Not for the empire he was supposed to be running. He stayed. For her. Alina watched him, chest tightening. She didn't know what this feeling was. Fear, gratitude, confusion, maybe all at once, but it hit her harder than the pain in her body. Before she could speak, before she could even move, the door clicked open. Her father slipped inside. He looked thinner, older, shaken to his core. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes dim, his hands trembling so badly he had to close the door twice just to get it right. "Alina," he whispered. She stiffened, not out of hate, but heartbreak. He rushed to her side but stopped halfway, as if afraid to get too close. I heard what happened," he said. "I shouldn't be here. Helena, she'll find out, but I had to see you. I had to know you were alive." Alina swallowed. "Dad." "I'm sorry," he choked out, voice cracking. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I was weak. I should have protected you. I should have fought her. I should have—" "You didn't," she whispered. "You stood there." He flinched like she'd hit him. "I know," he said, "and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." Tears ran down his face silently. He leaned closer. "Helena is spiraling. She's desperate. She knows Damien will come for her. She spent the last night calling people, erasing files, burning documents. She's dangerous, Alina, more than you think." Alina's heartbeat picked up. "Dangerous how?" "She has connections," he whispered. "Men who owe her favors. She's afraid Damien will kill her for what she did, so she's preparing to run. But before she does, she might try something terrible." "Like what?" Alina asked, voice low. "Anything she thinks will keep her alive." A quiet sound came from behind them. Damien. He had woken the moment someone spoke Helena's name. His eyes lifted slowly, cold and alert, not at Alina, but at her father. Alina froze, unsure how Damien would react. But he didn't rage. He didn't threaten. He didn't posture like a man ready to attack. He studied the older man's trembling hands, the guilt in his eyes, the way he stood like someone waiting to be punished. Then Damien spoke steadily. "You're not her enemy." Alina's father tensed. I didn't protect her." "No," Damien said, "but you aren't the one who put her in danger." Tears pooled again in the man's eyes. Damien stood, his expression unreadable. "If you came to warn her, then you're on the right side now." Her father nodded weakly. "She deserves better than the life Helena forced on her." Damien stepped closer, lowering his voice so only he and Alina's father could hear. "I will handle Helena." There was no threat in the tone, no violence, just certainty. Alina's father nodded again, then quietly slipped out of the room, not daring to look back. The moment the door closed, a guard appeared beside Damien. "We have the man from the safe house attack," the guard reported. "He's talking." Damien's expression sharpened. Bring him. The interrogation room was dark. Concrete, bare, no windows. The captured attacker sat chained to a chair, bruised and shaking. Damien stood in front of him, sleeves rolled up, calm in a way that scared the man more than violence ever could. You said Helena gave you the location? Damien began. Start from the beginning. The man swallowed. She told the cartel where the girl was. She gave us access codes, financial accounts, everything. She just wanted the girl gone so you'd never find out. Damien's jaw tensed. Find out what? That the girl's yours. Damien's eyes went lethal. And why did your bosses want her? He asked quietly. Leverage, the man stammered. If they had the baby, they could force you into anything. Damien stepped closer. And Helena agreed to this? She begged us to take her, the man whispered. Said the girl was ruining everything. Damien didn't hit him, didn't burn the room down, didn't snap. He simply turned away and said, Take him back. I've heard enough. But his eyes were dead, silent with a fury too controlled to be safe. Meanwhile, across the city, Helena's perfect world cracked under pressure. Police cars circled her street. Bank accounts froze under investigation. Old allies stopped answering calls. She stood in the middle of her designer living room, suitcases open, jewelry boxes scattered, laptops smashed on the floor. Her hands shook as she rifled through drawers like an animal trying to escape a hunter. This wasn't fear anymore. This was collapse. Her phone buzzed again, another denied transaction. No, she whispered, pacing. No, 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 he can't take everything from me. But he already had. Damien had started pulling every string she once used to control Alina's father. Bank accounts, shell companies, false identities, hidden assets, all unraveling. Helena grabbed her passport with shaking fingers, stuffed cash into her bag, and ran to the door. She didn't close it gently. She slammed it behind her, like she could outrun the consequences. Helena Stanton fled the city. Alina sat propped up in her hospital bed, the soft hum of machines lingering in the background. She wasn't shaking anymore, but she wasn't calm either. A quiet storm brewed inside her, a storm of questions she had swallowed for too long. Damien stood by the window, watching the city as if it were a chessboard. He looked like a man planning a war. He was, but right now, she needed answers more than protection. Damien? Alina said softly. He turned immediately. I want the truth, she whispered. All of it. No more half answers. No more protecting me from whatever you think I can't handle. He didn't move closer. He just watched her, measuring, debating, fighting himself. Are you sure? He asked quietly. Yes. A long silence settled between them. Then he came to her bedside and sat, elbows on his knees. Hands clasped as if he were bracing himself for impact. You were drugged, he began. The words hit harder than she expected, even though she'd suspected it. Hearing him say it made everything real. Drugged by who? She whispered. A rival's son. Someone desperate to get leverage over me, and arrogant enough to think he could take whatever he wanted. Alina's heart pounded. Damien continued, voice low but steady. I saw him dragging you through a side hallway. You couldn't walk. You were trying to fight, but your body wasn't responding. She inhaled sharply, memories flickering like broken glass. Blurred lights, a cold hand on her wrist. Fear she couldn't voice. Damien's jaw tightened. I followed him. When I got into the room, he was already trying to corner you? Alina pressed a hand to her mouth. I pulled him off you, Damien said. Things escalated. He fought back. I ended it. Her stomach turned. What does that mean? He's alive, Damien replied. But he won't touch anyone again. Alina looked away, breath shaking. And me? What happened after? You collapsed, he murmured. You were barely conscious. You didn't understand anything that was happening. You kept reaching for me, holding on to me like you were drowning. Her chest ached. This part she remembered in fragments. Warmth. A voice telling her she was safe. Arms lifting her. Damien's voice dipped, raw. I got you out of that room, but I didn't take you to the hospital. She looked at him sharply. Why not? His eyes dropped. This was the part he hated. Because you wouldn't let go, he said softly. You were terrified. You kept calling out, begging me not to leave you alone. He swallowed. And I didn't want to. I stayed with you. I held you until you fell asleep. Alina stared at him, not angry, not relieved, just processing. And after that, she whispered. His shoulders stiffened. I touched you when you were vulnerable. Nothing violent, nothing forced, but it was still a line I shouldn't have crossed. Her breath hitched, shock, confusion, a strange ache inside her she didn't know how to name. I regret it, he said quietly. Every day since. Not because I didn't want you, but because you deserved better circumstances. You deserved clarity, choice, consent. His voice broke slightly at the last word. She had never heard Damien sound like this, like a man standing in front of his own judgment. Alina leaned back, eyes burning, mind spinning as the truth settled. Shock, hurt, confusion, and strangely, understanding. You saved me, she whispered. Yes. And you made a mistake. Yes. And you've been carrying that guilt ever since. He closed his eyes briefly. Yes. Silence thickened between them, heavy, fragile, honest. She looked at her hands, then at her stomach, then back at him. One question rose to the surface, trembling but unstoppable. If the baby wasn't yours, would you still want it? Damien didn't hesitate, not even for a second. Yes. Her breath caught. He leaned closer, not touching her, just close enough for her to feel the truth in his voice. I want you, Alina. The child only makes me want to protect you more. But even if it wasn't mine, I would still be here. I would still fight for you. I would still keep you safe. Her throat tightened. Why? Because losing you once was enough, he murmured. The words sat between them, warm, dangerous, real. Before she could respond, Damien's phone buzzed hard against his pocket. He glanced at the screen, and his expression darkened instantly. What is it? Alina asked. He stood abruptly, voice dropping into deadly command as he answered the call. What did you find? His guard spoke fast on the other end. We have a problem. The rivals, they're gathering men, a lot of them. They're preparing something big. Tonight. Damien's entire demeanor changed. Shoulders squared, eyes cold, posture lethal. Preparing what? He demanded. Final strike, the guard said. They want you dead, and they want the girl. Damien's jaw clenched. Alina felt a chill crawl up her spine. This wasn't just danger. This was war. Damien turned toward her, eyes dark and fierce. They're coming for us. Night fell too fast over Damien's compound. The air was thick, electric, like the city itself was bracing for impact. Alina sat in a secured room deep inside the estate, flanked by reinforced walls and guarded hallways. Damien had insisted on bringing her here from the hospital the second the threat escalated. She hadn't argued. His eyes were too serious, too protective, too final. But she hated being separated from him now. She paced the room, hands trembling. Every sound felt like danger. Every silence felt worse. Then, a boom shook the walls. Dust trickled from the ceiling. Lights flickered. Alina froze. Another explosion followed, closer this time, blasting heat through the hallway. Guards shouted orders. Gunfire crackled like thunder. The compound was under attack. Alina backed away from the door, pressing a hand to her stomach as fear tightened inside her. "Damien, where are you?" she whispered. Across the compound, Damien moved like a force of nature, firing clean, precise shots as enemies poured through the breached gates. His men shouted over radios, struggling to hold the line. "Get to her room!" one of his lieutenants yelled. "I am," Damien growled, already sprinting through the smoke-filled corridors. He took down 2 attackers with swift blows, slammed a third into a wall, and kept moving. His mind didn't stray for even a second. Alina was alone, unarmed, and scared. He needed to reach her. He needed to keep her breathing. He kicked open a door to a hallway littered with debris. The blast wave from another explosion threw him forward. He hit the ground hard, rolled, and forced himself back up. He didn't stop. Alina pressed her ear to the door, heart pounding so hard she could barely think. Gunfire erupted just outside her hallway. Then, silence. A slow scrape. A lock turning. Alina stumbled back as the door opened. A man stepped inside. Not one of Damien's. Not a guard. A rival leader. The same man Damien fought through in the interrogation files. Cold eyes. Smug confidence. A scar across his cheek. He looked at her like she was already his. "There you are," he said, closing the door behind him. "The girl who caused all this trouble." Alina swallowed, voice thin. "Stay away from me." He smirked. "Your stepmother said the same thing the night she sold you out." The room tilted. "Helena did this?" Alina whispered. "Oh, she was eager to help," he said. "Gave us your location, gave us access codes, gave us every detail we needed. She even begged us to make sure Damien never found out what she did." Alina felt sick. Betrayal wasn't new, but this level of hatred was something else. "She didn't want you alive," the man continued. "Not you, and definitely not the child." Alina backed against the wall, eyes burning. Her breath hitched, panic flooding her chest. The man stepped forward. "But don't worry. Once we have you, Damien will come crawling. He'll give us everything we want." He reached out. A gunshot thundered. The rival leader jerked as a bullet tore into his shoulder. He stumbled, cursing, turning toward the source. Damien, breathing hard, covered in soot, eyes black with fury. He didn't wait for a reaction. He fired again, hitting the man's knee, dropping him to the floor. Alina gasped, relief breaking through the panic. But before Damien could reach her, another shot blasted through the doorway. Damien turned. The bullet struck him, straight in the side. The force knocked him backward. He caught himself on the edge of the table, teeth clenched in silent agony. "Damien!" Alina screamed. He staggered, one hand pressed to the wound, the other still gripping his gun. The rival leader, bleeding but conscious, reached for his weapon with shaking hands. Alina tried to run to Damien, but another explosion outside rocked the floor, throwing her off balance. Damien pushed off the table, moving toward her with raw determination. Blood soaked his shirt, dripping down his side, but he refused to fall. He reached the last attacker and slammed him to the ground with a violent final blow that echoed through the room. Then he turned toward Alina and collapsed to his knees. She dropped beside him instantly, hands shaking as she cupped his face. "Stay with me," she begged. "Damien, look at me. Please look at me." His breathing was uneven, strained, blood pooling beneath him. He touched her cheek with fingers that were already cold. I'm not losing you, he whispered, voice breaking, or our child. Her tears fell onto his hands as his eyes fluttered, dark, unfocused. Damien! She screamed. Help! Somebody help! Guards burst into the room, medics rushing forward. They pulled Damien from her arms, strapping pressure bandages, shouting frantic orders. Alina refused to move. She held his hand even as they lifted him onto a stretcher, refusing to let go, refusing to take a single step away from him. Medics pushed through the hallway, shouting codes. Blood dripped onto the floor. Alina followed, her fingers still wrapped around Damien's. She wasn't leaving him. Not now. Not ever. The hospital lights were harsh, cold, too bright for the fear sitting in Alina's chest. Damien had been wheeled into surgery hours ago, blood trailing across the hallway like a path she could never forget. Now she sat outside the operating room, his blood still dried on her hands. She didn't look away from the doors. Not once. When they finally swung open, a surgeon stepped out, mask hanging around his neck. He survived, he said. Alina's knees nearly gave out. The breath she'd been holding for hours escaped her in a trembling rush. But he's weak, the doctor added. He'll need time, and he'll need stability. She nodded, tears falling silently. I'll be here, she whispered. Damien woke slowly, eyes heavy, body still wrapped in layers of pain. Machines beeped beside him. Light filtered through curtains, and the first thing he saw when his vision cleared? Alina. She sat beside his bed, curled slightly, holding his hand like it was the only anchor she had left. Her thumb moved over his knuckles in gentle circles, her eyes swollen from crying. When she realized he was awake, her breath hitched. Damien! He tried to speak, but only a rasp came out. Water, she said quickly, grabbing a cup. She held the straw to his lips, watching him drink with shaky patience. He swallowed, voice rough. You stayed. I wasn't leaving you, she whispered. Not after everything. Not after what you did for me. Damien's eyes softened. Alina. She leaned closer, voice barely a breath. I feel something for you. I fought it. I tried to deny it. But when I saw you fall, when I thought I was losing you, I realized I can't pretend anymore. A slow exhale escaped him, like the weight of months finally releasing. He squeezed her hand with what little strength he had left. You have no idea what that means to me. While Damien recovered, the world outside shifted. Helena's face appeared on every news channel, arrested at the airport while trying to board a private jet. Charges piled high: fraud, money laundering, conspiracy with criminal groups. Every secret she spent years hiding burst into daylight. Her perfect reputation crumbled. Her friends vanished. Her power evaporated. Her life over. Alina's father, freed from Helena's control at last, came to the hospital trembling with remorse. He stopped in the doorway of Damien's recovery room, afraid to enter. Alina? He whispered. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it. Alina looked at the man who had failed her again and again, but who was finally standing on his own. You should have protected me, she said. You should have chosen me. I know, he said, voice breaking, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for it. She didn't smile, but she didn't turn him away either. That's enough for now, she said quietly. He exhaled in relief. Meanwhile, Damien's men swept through the city like a silent storm. Every rival boss, every traitor, every threat to Alina or the baby, dismantled, removed, erased from his world. By the time Damien could sit up unassisted, the war was over. He'd won. A week later, the doctor returned with a sealed envelope. The paternity test results, he said. Alina held it between trembling fingers. Damien watched her from the bed, tense, breath locked, his entire world depending on what she read. She opened it. Her eyes filled instantly. "Damien," she whispered, voice cracking. "The baby, it's yours." He didn't move at first. He just stared at her, shock melting into disbelief, then into something raw and heartbreaking. He covered his face with both hands. A sound escaped him. Quiet, broken, relieved. Alina moved to him. He pulled her into his arms, holding her as if he'd been waiting his entire life for this moment. "This is my child," he whispered against her hair. "Our child. I thought I didn't deserve this." "You do," she murmured. "You do." Rain fell softly outside the hospital window, gentle and cleansing. The storm that had once nearly ruined her life now felt like a reminder of everything they had survived. Damien sat on the bed, still weak but strong enough to lift his hand and place it over her stomach. Alina rested her hand on his. "I'm ready," she whispered, "for a new start, for whatever comes next." He leaned his forehead against hers, eyes closing, voice low and certain. "No one will ever hurt you again," he vowed. "Not while I'm alive." Outside, the rain softened to a quiet whisper. Inside, Damien held the future in his hands, and for the first time since the night of the gala, Alina felt peace,